My name is Randy Bigley. Joining me right now on the podcast is Galion Mayor Tom O'Leary. Good morning, Mayor.
Hey, good morning. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you. Start off, how do you think 2021 went for the city of Galion?
Well, I would think we held our own. I think what we were really focused on doing is not letting all those headwinds of COVID and an uncertain economy and whatnot push us back. So we tried to lean into those headwinds, and I think we came out at the end of the year ahead in a couple of important areas. After 3 years of being without a full-service grocery store, the Bueller's opened not too many weeks ago in the fall of the year, and so that's maybe like a car or something else in modern life. You don't realize how much you need that from a community point of view until you don't have one. And so while we had a few other businesses that stepped up and provided groceries, it's not the same as having a grocery store back in town. So that was a big step forward. I think one of the things that is worth mentioning about 2021 is that we looked at how to use CARES dollars, all that federal money washing in through Columbus. I'd have to say kind of took a little bit of a time out in Columbus. It made it difficult for local governments because, if you will, they sat on the money in Columbus for a while. But I don't want to sidetrack. Anyways, what we did with a lot of our CARES Act money was push it back out to our utility customers. And so we ran 2 series of CARES funded utility rebates. We also then used part of the first chunk of those ARPA dollars, the new money, to fund another utility rebate. Another thing that we did with our CARES money that I think we're working hard on maintaining is helping fund a monthly food pantry. That's been located up at the schools, and that bus garage that's recently built up is almost designed for that. And there's no doubt that Second Harvest is the primary motivator, but a combination of the school's location, their volunteer help and volunteer network, the city's funding using CARES dollars, and Second Harvest has really kept that going. And it seems to me to be one of the persistent things around Galion is the need for food. So we got grocery store, and we've had food pantries. But I think really at the point of the CARES Act was to get the money out to the businesses, was the third main beneficiary of our CARES dollars, and to the individual utility customers. So that's, I think, staying, leaning into the headwinds, and pushing the money that we got out to local citizens. Getting a grocery store, those are probably 3 of the biggest accomplishments of this year.
What would you like to? What would you
this
like
year,
to see?
listen to me. Yeah, last year. As I think about it, without going on taking up too much time, it was really important for the community to keep the hotel in operation. So we have a new owner. Been pleased to work with them, and they're up and running. And again, it's like any other local development. If the residents of the community have to be supportive of it. And so we're hoping that the Sleep Inn out at 30 and 598 will take hold and be successful as the economy begins to recover. People get out and travel a little bit more. So, so that's 21. The happy to be alive into 22 and starting a new term with a new auditor, Brian Satterfield. Former police chief is going to be our auditor, myself, and another incumbent returning to be the law director, Thomas Palmer. Our council, although we only have 2 new personalities, 2 new individuals, personalities, wrong word, the balance on some key issues, I think, will shift. And so one of the things we're going to try and do out of the mayor's office in 22 is get accomplished what this council wants to get accomplished, and not push against resistance on some big projects that that people are very passionate around Galion about, but we're going to have to only push and only go where council wants to go, and I think over the next year or 2 years you're going to see that is kind of the direction, working with this new council to accomplish a handful of common goals.
Any projects coming up for the city?
Well, we've got to build 598,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's the maintenance of traffic's been pretty acceptable so far, but when they begin major construction next spring, we'll be trying to detour around the project as many folks as possible. But you'd think, Randy, after you've done this as our fourth one of these 598 projects, we would have learned something, and we
Right.
have, and that is to make sure we're going to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, one in each direction, throughout the entire construction.
Okay.
So we had over the years some real issues managing out of town truck traffic, ending up detoured into residential areas. So we're hoping that we can detour that around town and still keep the business open. So far, the businesses, as we've rebuilt from the McDonald's project many
Sure.
years ago now, we haven't lost any businesses as a result of the construction, and that's always to me sort of one of those measuring, those barometric readings
Right.
about a project, is if the damage to the community is worse than the improvements, then you really are on the wrong side of the ledger. This, I think, will be able, our hope is to manage all of that traffic. The schools, many of our employers, all of our probably 3/4 of our commercial activity is in that Portland Way strip. So that's a big project in 22. Probably the biggest highway project that we'll handle over the time I'm there. So that, I think, is important. Later in the year, we're going to see a new building built at Branton 598, a commercial industrial building, and so that's been a long shared project by the developer out there, county development people, and city folks. So that we're excited about that. We'll get out the brass band to announce that when that starts to unfold in the second half of the year.
Yeah. One thing about we talked with Mayor Reeser about the downtown Bucyrus. Uptown Galion is just, you guys are very fortunate too that you guys have a very active uptown, don't you?
Yeah, I think that what I often say about the Uptown Galion is that it has good bones. That there is a structure of buildings. There's a set of buildings that have pretty good structure. We don't have holes in the uptown area for the most part. But that is ongoing. I think that the uptown is multifaceted. What I've learned over the 8 years that I've been mayor is that while there's an expectation that the city plays a role, the business community, particularly the uptown business community, doesn't want the city running it or in charge. And so what I hope to do over this next term, starting here a couple of days ago, is to get a more of a community-wide effort in renewing, reinvesting in uptown. We do have a lot going for ourselves, but it's a sports cliche, but if you're not getting better, if you aren't improving, you're probably getting worse. No one stays the same. So I think that applies to our uptown, is to continue to make improvements up there, including state capital bill grant that we'll be letting that contract in a matter of a few weeks, but that's for the renovation of the town square, the park square. People have different names for it, but the old timers call it the old Bennett building, but we won't go there. But in any case, I appreciate the compliment on the uptown, and small towns are going to have to find ways to make their uptown relevant commercially and from a community point of view.
And the Galion History, I've been fortunate to sit on the board for the Galion History Center. So
Yeah.
And they're very active too in the community.
That's a great example of an organization that has renewed its membership and leadership. I think it happens everywhere, and certainly in small towns where a certain group of people hang on for so long. There is,
Right.
new idea, somebody
Right.
throw that
Yeah.
lady out of here. We don't
Yeah.
do new ideas here. And what I really believe is true of the old historical society,
Mhm.
now reorganized, is that they are looking at doing things differently.
Yeah.
And sometime we'll talk about that. I think
Sure.
that while Bishop Brown is known, Brunella is known, there's an interesting story to be told about his life
Mhm.
and the role he played in the industrial heyday of Galion, him being an unabashed communist.
Right, sure.
And so I think there's some learning and some sharing that can be done along those. But that won't happen in 22, although I know that the History Center's is really is retooled and represents kind of new leadership. It's a good feeling. It's good to see that.
Good. Glad to hear that. Anything else you'd like to add before we take off?
I would like to say it's corny, but it's true. It's an honor to get to serve. I was retired for a few years, and I'm not sure if you knew that. Maybe some of your listeners did, and had a chance to come up off the couch and do some of the things that I know are associated with Galion's revitalization, rebirth. I think we're just getting going, and so I expect to be able to keep leaning into those headwinds, because I expect 22, with inflation, other factors, to be challenging for small towns. But I really think that the exciting part will be seeing what kind of Galion this group can hand off to the next generation, and it won't be long, but we've got 4 years to get some things done, Randy. Appreciate the time to talk with you.
Mayor O'Leary, thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh, my pleasure.